So this is my Yokomo YZ10 870C. I've made a few videos on this so far for what I've done for setup and everything. And I wanted to make just another follow-up video. I was asked to do this for doing the hex wheel conversion to put modern rims on the YZ10. Because for the standard rims use a square wheel hub, and those older wheels are the original wheels are hard to find and expensive, although you can get some from JC Racing at a very reasonable price. And I do use the JC Racing rims on my 94 YZ10 runner, but for the 870, I wanted to use hex wheels because I have hex wheels on my Schumacher Cat 2000, on my new Kyosho Laser ZX 5, and also my vintage Kyosho Laser ZX. So this gives me a little more uniformity across these chassis so that I can, use the same tires and everything. So it's actually fairly simple to do. On the standard setup for the YZ10, where you put the C-hub carrier on the inner hole for the narrower front, the front and rear universals are the same length, okay? And you would use the ZX5 front swing shaft for that. Now you can buy the Kyosho part, which is rather expensive, but it also turns out that 3 Racing makes a part for that as well. Its part number is ZX5-19/HD. Maybe a little hard to see here under the lighting. Okay, so that part is, I think it's like 20 bucks or so for a pair of CVDs, and I'm pretty sure I'm using those on the rear here, because the rear is a standard width, and the front I set it to the wider width. So to run the wider width at the front, you need to run the 73mm ZX5 swing shafts. I couldn't find the appropriate 3 Racing part for that, so I bought the Kyosho part, which is LA257, okay? And you use that on the front if you're running the wider front. If you're running the standard front width, you would use the same CVD for the rear, this 3 Racing part, okay? So once you put that on, before you mount the hex wheel hub here, I'm using the HPI Blitz hex wheel hubs, the same ones that I've used on my Avanti. They're relatively inexpensive. They get the job done. There is a little bit of a gap here. The focus on this camera kind of sucks, but there's a bit of a gap here between the wheel hub and the steering knuckle. Same thing with the rear. It's the same gap size. So what I did is I went to Home Depot and I found a 5mm by 1mm washer. Now you could probably find similar washers on A-Main Hobbies or whatever, but I just happened to find some at Home Depot. And they're 5mm diameter to fit the axle, and they're 1mm thick. Okay, so you put that in there, and there's a little bit of play, but it's not binding up, so it works just fine. And this allows you to mount hex rims. Okay. Now it is worth noting that the particular type of hex rim you choose will make a difference, because these, for example, are from the HPI Cyber 10B. They have a particular offset in the rim, which may be different from, say, the J Concepts mono rims, which have, I'm pretty sure, a different offset. I do have a set of mono rims that I've run on this, which have a slightly different offset. I think it runs a little wider with the mono rims. It's not too big a deal for this chassis, I don't think. I didn't notice a huge difference in handling, but this is how you would do a hex conversion. I guess I should also make some notes about what I've done for the shocks. I don't think I've mentioned explicitly what my setup is on any of my other videos. When I first ran this car, I found that it jumped very poorly, and I took some videos of it, and I sort of looked at it in slow motion to see what was happening, and the rear was bottoming out, and so when the rear slaps the up face of the jump, then the front nose dips down, and it's the landing's very messy. So what I did is I put associated blue springs in the back with 40 weight oil, and the pistons I think are a number 3 or a number 3 like piston. It's an RPM red dual stage shock piston in the back, pretty sure. And in the front, I'm also using 40 weight oil with associated silver springs, okay, and number 2 pistons, I think. So that's the suspension setup I'm using. It jumps way better with this than with what I had before, which I think was 30-25 or 35-30 or something like that, with green springs in the back. The rear was way too soft. It was bottoming out too much. So you got to run this a little stiff, but it works great. I mean, if you've seen some of the running videos of this, the Vonats video, some of the other ones where I ran this against a B44.2, this is the suspension setup I was using, and it works fine. So that should do it for this video, and thanks for watching.